These are strange times we're living in. A global pandemic rages on. An economic crisis looms on the horizon. And Jake Paul is fighting Ben Askren in a pro boxing match. As diehard MMA fans, we have mixed feelings about this. On one hand, I think it's safe to say every MMA fan has been wanting to see Jake Paul get humbled by a real fighter for once after his Twitter tirade calling out the likes of fighters like McGregor, Bisping, and his drive-by toilet papering of Dylan Danis. On the other hand, he's going to be fighting Ben Askren, who is a very successful MMA fighter, but may not be the best representation of striking MMA has to offer. We weren't sure if we were going to make a video on this fight, but whether it's the fight we wanted or not, it's going to be a spectacle nonetheless, and the reputation of our sport lies in the hands of one Ben Askren. So without further ado, let's get into the breakdown. First, let's take a look at the tail of the tape. Ben Askren stands at 5 foot 11 inches with a reach of 73 inches and a finish rate of 63%, 6 of those being knockouts or technical knockouts. Jake Paul stands at 6 foot 1 inch tall with a reach of 76 inches and a finish rate of 100%. Ben will be at a height and reach disadvantage going into this fight and will look to use his experience to his advantage. Let's take a look at Ben Askren and his boxing. A big part of Askren's game is using the cage to dictate his fights. Even in a boxing setting, this will be a part of his game plan. Askren likes to hunt his opponents down by walking them towards the cage and uses his footwork to always stay one step ahead of his opponents so they have nowhere to escape. Sure, he won't be allowed to take Jake down or even have a cage, but his willingness to push the pace and keep moving will translate over to a pro boxing match and will likely try to back Paul into a corner. Askren has a mean spinning back fist which he used against Lima during the 10 seconds that fight was actually on the feet and nearly missed ending Maya's whole career. Look for him to try and land that massive blow to Jake in their boxing match. Jokes aside, Askren has never been a striker. His entire career has been built on wrestling and domination on the ground in MMA. Askren has largely used small 1-2 combos to close the distance and land a takedown. Although none of that will matter for his next fight, he will be able to use these strikes to get close to Jake and use some close range strikes. There might be potential for Askren to clinch up regularly to weigh down on Paul to wear down some cardio, similar to what Tyson Fury did against Deontay Wilder in their second bout. Askren, being a former Olympic wrestler and longtime MMA fighter, has a significant advantage in the cardio department and should look to make use of that and drag the fight into the later rounds. Askren has never had knockout victory from standing and likely won't rely on a quick finish in his bout with Paul. The caveat here might be that Askren has likely never gone into a fight not relying on his wrestling, so given that his camp for this fight will be fully focused on boxing, we might see some advancements we've never got to see during his MMA career. One aspect Askren should aim to improve on is his head movement and his defense. He doesn't move his head off the center line much when strikes are incoming and often defends by extending his arms towards his opponent, which might be a quick way to get knocked out. Next, let's take a look at Jake Paul. New to the boxing scene, it's easy to overlook Jake and write him off as just a YouTuber. That may be so, but he still possesses skills to be an effective boxer and has been putting in the work at the gym. Paul has good strength in both hands and has been able to use this effectively during his short career. Paul understands the fundamentals of boxing and uses a jab more than any other strike to maintain his distance. His true power shot is his right hook, which he used to knock Anison Gibb down multiple times and make Nate Robinson into a meme. He may not be the most technical boxer around, but Jake has gotten a grasp of boxing fundamentals and has some power to utilize with it. He fights orthodox with a traditional high guard. He does tend to telegraph his jabs and lead hooks, which may give Askren a chance to counter. Paul does have the height and reach advantage in this fight and should make good use of it. He does tend to attempt to clinch often in his fights, but that could be a double-edged sword against someone like Askren who may want the same thing. Now, how do these two match up? Jake Paul comes into this fight as the favorite. This may be a shocker to a lot of you because Ben Askren has been a pro MMA fighter for years. How can this be possible? Askren dominated ONE FC and Bellator due to his Olympic level wrestling. He never truly needed a stand-up game in those organizations and was able to wrestle his opponents into defeat. When it comes to the stand-up, Askren isn't the best example MMA has to offer. Paul may not be the best boxer out there, but this is his sport that Askren is coming into and will likely have the edge in power and pure boxing skills. But Askren shouldn't be counted out so quickly. He brings in nearly 2 decades of professional combat sports experience, and that will definitely play to his advantage. Askren can make this fight dirty through clinching, pressure, and fighting primarily in the pocket to wear down a less experienced Paul. This fight is odd, to say the least. A YouTuber who's coming off a knockout of an ex-NBA player is about to fight an MMA fighter who has a negative strike differential in the UFC. Against any other MMA fighter in the rankings, this fight would be an absolute wash, but against someone with such little striking prowess like Askren, this fight ends up being a lot more intriguing. If you're an MMA fan, hold on for dear life, because if things go south for Askren, MMA as a whole is going to take a hit in the mainstream media. April 17th, we'll see if Ben Askren can defend the pride of MMA, or if Jake Paul will stack his peculiar resume. Thanks for watching our video. If you enjoyed our content, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe.